Hello, and welcome back to Kookaburra, where knowledge meets inner wisdom. In the previous video, I used an old photographic process as a model for understanding how our inner world can influence the reality we experience. We talked about the latent image, an image that already exists on photographic paper, even though we cannot yet see it. And I suggested that something similar may happen within us. Our beliefs, expectations, memories, and imagination can create an inner picture. Repetition can strengthen it. Emotion can act like the developer. And eventually, that inner picture can influence what we notice, how we interpret situations, the decisions we make, and the actions we take. But at the end of that video, I left you with an important question. Can we change the image before it becomes our experience? I believe we can. But first, we have to understand where that image comes from. Who created the image? Here's something interesting to consider. Many of the beliefs influencing your life today may not have been consciously chosen by you. Some of them began forming when you were very young, before you had enough experience to question them. Perhaps somebody told you, "You are not good enough. You will never succeed. Money is difficult to earn. People cannot be trusted. Life is hard." Here's something interesting to consider. Many of the beliefs influencing your life today may not have been consciously chosen by you. Some of them began forming when you were very young, before you had enough experience to question them. Perhaps somebody told you, "You are not good enough. You will never succeed. Money is difficult to earn. People cannot be trusted. Life is hard." Or perhaps nobody said these things directly. Maybe you simply observed what was happening around you and formed your own conclusions. A child does not normally stop and say, "Let me critically evaluate whether this belief is useful and logically correct." The child simply experiences, interprets, and learns. Eventually, some of those interpretations may become part of subconscious programming, and years later, we may still be living according to them. There is another useful way of looking at this. What we call our personality may not be one single, perfectly unified thing. Different situations can bring forward very different parts of us. One part may be confident, another may be frightened. One part may want change, another may desperately resist it. One part may say, "I want a loving relationship," while another part expects rejection and keeps people at a distance. Have you ever decided to do something and then found yourself doing exactly the opposite? That does not necessarily mean you are weak. It may mean that different internal patterns are pulling in different directions. During my years working as a hypnotherapist, I saw this many times. People consciously wanted one thing, while another part of them seemed determined to prevent it. And usually, that part had a reason. This is where things become very interesting. A subconscious pattern that creates problems today may originally have developed as a form of protection. Imagine a child who is repeatedly criticized whenever they speak confidently. The child may learn it is safer not to attract attention. At that time, withdrawing may actually reduce conflict. So the subconscious learns a strategy. Stay quiet. Don't stand out. 20 or 30 years later, however, that same person may want to start a business, speak publicly, or apply for a better position. Consciously, they want to move forward. But every time an opportunity appears, something happens. Anxiety, self-doubt, procrastination. They may think, "Why am I sabotaging myself?" But from the perspective of the old subconscious program, it may not be sabotage at all. It may still be protection. The problem is that the program is working with outdated information. This is something I found particularly important in hypnotherapy. An emotional pattern can continue operating long after the situation that created it has disappeared. The adult knows, "I am safe now." But some subconscious part may still respond according to an experience from childhood. This helps explain why our reactions can sometimes seem completely out of proportion to what is happening. Something relatively small occurs, and suddenly there is a powerful emotional reaction. The present event may simply have pressed an old button, and once that button is pressed, the old program starts running. This is why awareness is so important, because until you recognize the program, you may believe that your reaction is simply reality. Imagine again our photographic darkroom. There is an image being projected through the enlarger, but you do not know which negative is inside. You keep developing photograph after photograph, and every photograph contains the same unwanted image. Would you blame the photographic paper? Would you blame the developer? Of course not. You would look inside the enlarger. What negative am I projecting? The same question can be extremely useful in life. When something repeatedly produces the same emotional reaction, instead of only asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" try asking, "What belief or expectation might I be bringing into this situation?" That question moves you from automatic reaction to observation, and observation creates choice. This is where the observer we discussed earlier in this series becomes extremely important. The moment you can observe a thought, you are no longer completely lost inside that thought. The moment you can observe an emotional reaction, you have created a small space between yourself and the reaction. Instead of, "I am afraid," you can begin noticing, "Fear is appearing." Instead of, "I am not good enough," you can notice, "There is that old belief again." That may sound like a very small difference, but psychologically, it is enormous, because now you have something you did not have before: choice. You can ask, is this belief true? Is it useful? Where did it come from? Does it belong to the situation I am experiencing now, or to something that happened many years ago? And most importantly, do I still want to develop this picture? Now we can return to our photographic model. If you do not like the photograph appearing in the developer, there is little point becoming angry with the photo paper. You need to change what is being projected. In our inner world, that means examining the beliefs, expectations, and mental images behind our automatic reactions. But simply repeating a positive sentence may not always be enough. If somebody carries a deep subconscious belief, "I am worthless," standing in front of a mirror saying, "I am wonderful, I am wonderful, I am wonderful," may create very little change. Why? Because another part of the mind may immediately respond, "No, you're not." The old negative is still in the enlarger. Real change often begins by recognizing the old image first, understanding why it formed, and then gradually creating a different one. Remember something important. Your subconscious programming was learned, and what was learned can often be updated. Suppose your old belief says, "If I make a mistake, people will reject me." Instead of fighting that belief, begin investigating it. Is that actually true today? Look for evidence. Remember situations where you made mistakes and nothing terrible happened. Notice people who accepted you despite your imperfections. Allow yourself small experiences that contradict the old program. You are giving your mind new information, and repetition matters. One new experience may not immediately replace decades of conditioning, but repeated new experiences can begin creating a different expectation. And this is also where practices such as heart-brain coherence may become useful. When you deliberately create a calmer, more coherent inner state and combine that state with a new thought, belief, or mental image, you are no longer giving your subconscious new information only intellectually. You are connecting that new information with a different emotional experience. And remember our photographic model. Emotion is the developer. So instead of repeatedly developing the old picture with fear, anger, or anxiety, you begin strengthening a different picture with feelings such as gratitude, appreciation, confidence, or love. With repetition, that can begin creating a different expectation, a different internal picture, a different negative in the enlarger. And this brings us back to something we discussed in the previous video. Emotion is not necessarily the enemy. Emotion strengthens patterns. That means it can strengthen old patterns, but it can also help strengthen new ones. Imagine something you genuinely want to create in your life, not simply an object. Perhaps greater confidence, peace, a healthier relationship, a new direction. Instead of repeatedly imagining everything that could go wrong, begin giving some attention to what it might feel like if things went well. Not pretending, not denying reality, but allowing your mind to experience another possibility. What would confidence feel like? What would peace feel like? What would it feel like to respond differently next time? You are beginning to expose another image, and when you combine that image with genuine emotion, you begin developing a different internal pattern. There is a simple principle I have learned in life. Don't look in a direction you don't want to go, and don't think about things you don't want. Think about riding a bicycle. If you become frightened of hitting an obstacle and keep staring directly at it, you may unconsciously begin steering toward it. Life can sometimes work in a similar way. If your attention is constantly fixed on, what if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if nobody wants me? What if something goes wrong? Then those images repeatedly occupy your inner screen. This does not mean you should ignore genuine problems. It means that once you recognize a problem, direct your attention toward the direction you actually want to travel. The obstacle may be real, but it does not have to become your destination. Over the next few days, notice whenever you have a strong automatic reaction. Do not immediately try to change it. First, observe it. Then ask yourself, what picture am I creating right now? What am I expecting to happen? What belief is behind that expectation? Is this based on what is actually happening or on something I learned in the past? And then ask one final question. What picture would I rather develop? You do not need to force yourself to believe something completely different immediately. Simply begin creating an alternative. That is enough to start. In the previous video, we talked about the hidden image creating your reality. Today, we went one step further. We looked inside the enlarger. Many of the negatives being projected into our lives may have been created years ago. Some may have developed during childhood. Some may have been created through painful experiences. And some may once have been useful forms of protection. But an old program does not have to remain a permanent program. Awareness allows you to recognize the image. Understanding allows you to discover where it came from. And conscious repetition, new experiences, and emotion can begin creating something different. But there is another fascinating question. If different parts of our personality can carry different beliefs, emotions, and intentions, who are these parts? Why can one part of you desperately want something, while another part seems determined to stop you from getting it? And can we actually communicate with those parts instead of fighting them? That is exactly what we're going to explore in the next video, understanding your personality parts. Until then, remember, don't look in a direction you don't want to go, and don't think about things you don't want. Choose the picture carefully, because the picture you repeatedly expose may become the one you eventually develop. This is Kookaburra, where knowledge meets inner wisdom.